Hi Year 8s, welcome to the second lesson of Chapter 9a. Last lesson I asked you to have a practice on using the Desmos application to work out how to plot coordinates using the Desmos graphing application. I hope that worked out well for you. And then I asked you to have a go at the 3 questions on page 563, building understanding questions. Today we're going to be looking at something a little bit more difficult. We're actually going to be plotting more coordinates but with more instructions, so you've got to follow more instructions this time. Alright, so we're on page 564, exercise 9a. We're going to start on question number 1, and I'm just going to show you again how to get up onto the Desmos application. So go up into any browser and then type in Desmos. Desmos, www.desmos.com, and then when you get to this section, just go straight to the top, click down to the graphing calculator, and there's no need to sign in or log up. Alright, so here we have the Cartesian plane. It's not really in the coordinates that I would like, or the scale that I would like rather. So let's look at what the question is asking us to do. It's asking us to draw a number plane. Okay, so when they say number plane, you can substitute that for Cartesian plane. So draw a Cartesian plane extending from -4 to +4 on both axes, and then plot and label these points. So if you're a student who's using grid paper at home, because if that's what you've got in your workbook, then that is absolutely fine. You don't need to use Desmos. This is just for students who have not got any graph paper at all. It's a great function to use online. So if you're keen, go ahead and use it. If you have a workbook, then you can still use that as well. All right, so what I'm going to do is draw the number plane extending from -4 to +4 on both sides. Now you can see that our Cartesian plane goes way past -4 and way past +4. So I'm going to go to this spanner here again and change my settings. So what I'd like to do is use, make sure I've got my arrows on each axis to begin with, and then I'm going to go to my x-axis here, and you can see that if x is less than -10, I can change this negative number. I can change it to, what do we need? -4. So I'm going to change it to a -4, and you can see, or actually rather you probably can't see very well, here it goes down to -4. Okay, let's go back up to that spanner tool and do the positive side. So go to +4 this time. Okay, and then we'll do our y-axis as well, because that's still at negative and +10. So let's go back in, go down to x-axis. Here, let's do -4 and +4. And I just want to, well, it's already got my steps, 1 step, 2, 3, and 4. It's not skipping any numbers at all, so I'm going to make sure it stays that way and just put step 1 down here. All right, there we go. So let's look at graphing now. So it says draw a number plane and then plot these labelled points. So it says for question 1a, you need to plot a point that has 2 on the x-axis and 3 on the y-axis. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to open our brackets up, press 2, 3, and then close our bracket. And you can see that the red, well, it goes default to red, but you can choose any colour. Let's choose purple. So here we have a point in relative to the origin. You can see that it is +2 on the x-axis, 2 steps away on the right-hand side to the x-axis, to the origin rather, and then 1, 2, 3 steps positive on the y-axis, and there we have our coordinates. Okay, so 2x and 3y, and that's where our coordinate plot must be. And now it says, oh look, it says I have to label this as a +A. A capital A. So here I'm going to click my label, and I'm just going to type in the letter A, and you can see straight away it's come up with that letter. Okay. So my next one I'm going to do in a different colour. For B, it says 0 for my x-axis and 1 for my y-axis. So open bracket, 0, 1, close bracket, and I might leave that as blue, but now I'm going to label that as B, capital B. So these are my 2 points. Okay, and you can keep going further on with C and then D, E, and F. Okay, so that's how you would do the first question. Okay, making sure that you're ticking the boxes and labeling them with their capital letters. Okay, make sure you take a screenshot and then email that to me. Okay, question 2 is very similar. You have to do, again, plot those coordinates. Although this time you're left with, well, there's a couple of points even in question 1 where you're asked to do half marks. So half coordinates, let's try one of those. So let's do question 2M. Let's do question 2M where it's on the x-axis it's negative 3.5x and negative 3.5y. So let's open that up. I'm going to do a negative 3.5 and comma and then negative 3.5 for my y-axis, and that's in green. So I can see, I'm going to label that down there as M. Nope. Label here as M. And you can see down here, let's actually come up with our coordinate perfectly. Now you can see these smaller, finer lines indicate fractions of a whole. Remember, between negative 3 and negative 4, there is one whole integer, one whole number. Okay, and if I divide that one whole number into 1, 2, 3, 4 segments, obviously then each of these blocks is going to count for 0.25 of a whole. So this would be our 0.5 mark, which would be 3.5. Okay, so 3.5 on the x scale, or negative 3.5 rather, and then negative 3.5 on the y scale as well, y-axis. All right, so we've done questions 1 and 2. Let's get on to something a little bit more tricky. Question number 3. Okay, so question number 3, pretend I've taken a screenshot of all my work and I've emailed it to my teacher. I'm going to get rid of all of these by crossing them off my Cartesian plane. So my Cartesian plane is now clear, and I'm going to go on to question 3. So it says using a scale extending from negative 5 to positive 5 on both axes. So now I have to change my Cartesian plane scale. So I'm going to go back into my settings on my spanner, and using my x-axis, I'm going to change this to negative 5 and a positive 5, and then negative 5 for y and positive 5 for y. There we go. Okay, so that looks great. Now I'm going to read my instructions. So my instructions tell me, let's move this over slightly. My instructions tell me using a scale extending from negative 5 to positive 5 on both axes, plot and then join the points for each part. Describe the basic picture form. So I'm going to do A, and I want you guys to try B, whether you do that in your workbook or you do that on Desmos, that's up to you. So my first coordinates are negative 2, negative 2, close bracket, and don't forget, every time you have a new bracket, you put a new point in, you have to have a comma between those brackets. Okay, here we have positive 2 and negative 2, comma, positive 2, positive 2, positive 1 and 3, positive 1 and 4, and here we have a half, so let's do 0.5, comma, and 4 for my y. And you can start to see these coordinates being plotted on my Cartesian plane here. So here we have 0.5 and 3.5. Aha, I made a mistake. Let's look at, there we go. I think that's going to solve my issue. 3.5. What was the mistake I made? There we go. Oh no. Let's stop. Okay, I stopped the recording and I fixed my mistake, and now I'm going to continue on with these last 3 coordinate plots. So I've done 0.0 and 4. Let's do negative 2 and positive 2, and then our last one finally is negative 2 and negative 2. Okay, what was my mistake this time? Okay, I found that last mistake I made. Now I'm going really fast. Obviously, you're going to have a bit more time to do this in your hour. So making sure that you are focusing on what you're doing rather than rushing through like me. All right, so making sure that you've got all your commas in the right space. I didn't have that. I had a full stop instead of a comma. So in this case, what you're going to do, it's asking you to join the plots for each part. So you have to join all of these plots on your Cartesian plane. So that might take some time if you're doing it in your workbook, although it's a little fun, but let's try doing that in Desmos. So I'm going to hover over my black marks here and just click and There we go. And then you can see, click and hold. If I click and hold, and then this whole template comes up of different colors, and then I'm going to put my lines on. So toggle them on, or I can toggle them off. And you can see now that they've all been joined, and we can see that the shape is a house. I can change any color. There's my orange house. All right, so that's my shape. I want you guys to do 3B and see if you can do that one. Let's look at question 4. Question 4. All right, so I have question 4. Let's take a snapshot of my house and send that to my teacher. And then we'll get rid of that. Okay. 1 point for question 4. 1 point in each set is not in line with the other points. Name the point in each case. So again, I'm going to get rid of the house, and I'm going to start doing my points. 2 and 4. Now, just by looking at these, you should be able to see which one, or you might be able to see which one is out of line, because they seem to grow up incrementally. Okay, so here I have I'm going to get rid of this to the side and then zoom out. So now I can see perfectly well which one is in line and which one is not in line. If I go ahead and I click on this one, my lines should definitely tell me that it is this point here, which is out. And where should it be? If it's going to be a straight line, remember linear means straight, and we're studying linear graphing. So it's this line that is making this coordinate rather, that is making the line out of whack. So it should be down here. Okay. All right. So that's the one there. Take a screenshot. Don't forget to take a screenshot of that and then send that to your teacher. I think the last one here is question number 6 is, there's new vocabulary here. It says the midpoint of a line segment or interval is the point that cuts the segment in half. Find the midpoint of the line segment joining these pairs of points. So I'm just going to do question 6A for you and show you how that works. Okay, so I'm going to plot those points and 3 and 5. And you can see that here comes up with 2 different coordinates on my Cartesian plane. And now it's asking you to find the midpoint of a line segment. Now let's turn the lines on. Toggle the lines on, and you can see there's a line that connects those 2 dot points. Now, where is the midpoint, or where is the center of that line? Now, the center you can see is this point right here. And what is the coordinate of those lines? What is the coordinate of the midpoint? Now, you can see if you go down to the x-axis, it's +2, and across to the y-axis, it's +4. So my midpoint would be +2, +4. There's my midpoint there in green. Okay. Don't forget to take screenshots of all your work and have a bit of fun ruling up your Cartesian planes and plotting those coordinates. Don't forget to send your work to your teacher, and all the best for your work. Please contact me if you need to.